Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, May 16th, 2025, and I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. Okay, guys, well, I had intended to do a different video on an article, but I need more time to work it out. So, in any case, this led into this video here because I was thinking about the mounds, the earthen mounds in North America here, and I'm thinking about Cahokia Mound and what was mentioned in C.W. Ceram's book, The First American, and he had alluded to it and had sort of wondered himself about the repair made to Monk's Mound or Cahokia, and that the people there couldn't repair it. And I think he was alluding to that, it didn't make a lot of sense to him. And, it brought it to my attention, and it certainly seems like if the people who were living there, the Mississippian people, and they had been building, this culture had been building mounds all along. And of course, mounds are not just dirt, they're constructed and engineered in a certain way. So, we know about terra preta down there in South America. They call this Amazonian dark earth, Indian black, this type of dark, fertile soil found primarily in the Amazon basin, according to Cornell University. It's distinct from the surrounding tropical soils due to its high carbon content, nutrient richness, and ability to retain water. It's anthropogenic soil. Okay, that's not what's being said here, So, I typed in anthropogenic soil here, not saying it, but, this is the definition of it. Anthropogenic soil, okay? Those formed are significantly modified by human activities. These soils are distinct from naturally formed soils and are found in urban agriculture and other human-influenced landscapes. They may be created through sealing natural soil with impervious materials, transforming natural soil, developing new soil profiles. Okay, so terra preta down there in South America is this anthropogenic soil that they develop for agriculture. That's what it is, this black soil there. So as they excavated mounds and discovered about mounds, they also found out that they were constructed with anthropogenic soils with a lot of clay additives, etc., etc. So the answer to it is yes, many ancient mounds were built using a degree of soil engineering. While not always employing complex modern techniques, mound builders often incorporated various soil types and layers to achieve specific construction goals, such as preventing slumping or creating stable platforms. Okay, so it says mound builders were known to use different types of soil, clay, and even sod in their construction. Okay, so I'm not going to be going on any further because I read in many accounts, newspaper accounts with universities involved with the excavation of these mounds, where in some cases they ran into a layer of clay that was like concrete, and the excavators, some of these amateur archaeologists, used dynamite to get to had to use dynamite because the layer of clay was so thick in there. It's like concrete. So obviously mounds are just not dirt. Okay, so the reason why they say the slumping at Cahokia occurred was because of the sort of rainwater runoff. Okay, slumping both eastern and western sides. Repairs have been attempted, including this is all recently. Okay, the slumps occurred, very recently, but if you look into it, the repairs on this mound started as early as 1200 AD, according to them, which I find it hard to believe because this is when all the um, catastrophes were going on during the 1100 and 1200 in the Americas. Several natural catastrophes impacted various civilizations, particularly the decline of Cahokia and the Chaco Canyon. These included floods, droughts, and other environmental changes. Okay, so they say this catastrophe happened where to Cahokia that was flooded out and everything, and this is what they see. You have to, really pull at this to get the whole story out of it because, like, they don't want to give you the whole story. It's ridiculous. So anyway, this is, according to them, is how the slumping occurred through this flooding and all kind of other stuff. So then attempts at that time were attempted to repair it. So what we're supposed to be led to believe is that the Mississippian people there, who were there 800 to 1700, okay, so they were there during this time period, and they were building mounds all the time. And they were masters of engineering, and these were mounds built to unbelievable perfection using lots of manpower and I assume lots of engineering because mounds are just not dirt. So what C.W. Saran was alluding to is that the peoples that were there didn't know how to repair it because they weren't the people who built it. See, so you can't repair something that you have no idea how it's built. So, of course it was replaced with just, simple dirt and all kind of stuff like that. And it just, nobody's ever attempted, now they attempted to do it and all kind of stuff, but it did damage. There's so much damage done to it already. It would require some serious rebuilding. They've had many attempts to mitigate it, but it's not being mitigated. But again, these same peoples are attributed with lots and lots of, peoples of that time period, attributed with lots and lots of canal building and dam building and all kind of stuff to very precise, an exact sort of building technique. So, it seems highly improbable that the people that were attempting to repair it knew what they were doing, just like we don't know what we're doing. We don't. See, it's great to know what things are made of, like such as Roman concrete. You grind it all up and you find out what it's made of. Yet, like the University of Utah found out that they could find it, but there's something that they're missing in the process because they can't seem, even with the same materials and the same ratios, etc., are unable to create Roman concrete. There's something missing in the process. So it's great to know what things are made out of, but if you can't recreate that, there's something missing in the process that you don't understand. So perhaps it is that way with this, but we would assume that the people who built this mound, the ancestors of them, or whoever it was currently, was still attributed with mound building during those times. That mound building didn't stop. Okay, so you would assume they would know how to do an adequate repair, just like any structure can be repaired. And you have, if you find a solution to it, which these people were certainly capable of, judging by the level of engineering of all the earth and mound work in the Americas. So it's highly improbable that the people who they say with the Mississippian culture are the ones who built this structure. It was stumbled upon, just like Sasquatch Wyman was stumbled across by the inking people there, and then you can see their handiwork here with these small irregular stones as compared to these exact fitting, seemingly cut stones, if that's what it was. But they stumbled upon this just like the Mayans stumbled across the Rio Beck ruins, and look at all these ones that are not monster mouths and all kind of stuff, which were repairs made by the Mayan people. And before that, if you go further back in time, there in Central America, in South America, if you go further back in time, the stonemasonry is more precise and it's more, highly engineered. As you go forward in time to, much recent histories, okay, you have this sort of mortar, rubble, soil, and mortar technique that the Mayans used for all of their structures, and Aztec, etc. So, this, why would it be more precise as you go further? Cut stone, more, mortarless stone works, and just unbelievable. Some of these structures are just incredibly done, and that's more advanced as you go further back in time. All right, and same with Egypt as well. Nothing to say that the what we understand to be the Egyptian dynasty came across this and stumbled across these ruins at some point later time, seem to emulate, like they all do, try to emulate what they can decipher from the civilization that was there before them. So, just a short video, guys. I follow the logic completely where Saran was coming from. It's just, if you know how to build mounds, you have the ability to prepare them. And just because you know what something's made at, it doesn't necessarily mean that you know what the process is. Because the Roman concrete was a perfect example of knowing exactly what the materials are or something, but not having the ability to actually make it for some reason. Okay, so it absolutely has to require something in the process that is unknown. See? So, in any case, guys, this is just, I had mentioned this when I was reading Saram's book and doing the videos on my other channel, but, so, don't think for a second they have this right. They most likely do not have this right. The peoples who they consider Mississippian people, I say, well, they have evidence, carbon dating evidence from fires around the mound and all this kind of stuff like that, which means nothing, except that people at some later ancient time, had fires around there. And the people who built it, why should they have fires around it? Was it necessary for them to have fires around it? They had no fire. It doesn't necessarily mean anything that they had fires around it. Anybody at any later date after the site was abandoned or anything like that could have had fires around, going far back into antiquity, but not as far back as when these things were actually built. Because they often dig down below the surface, and of course it's covered by the aging layer and all this kind of stuff like that, and things are more precise, more precision stonemasonry the further back you go in time. And then they come to this raw mortar and rubble mix, which is more flexible and versatile, and that sort of advancement, but not quite the same thing as cut and polished stone. So, You can see these things like these Rio back ruins that are just incredible and amazing and resemble nothing like what all the other sites in these, Central America look like with this rubble stone mortar mix. But you often see repairs to these structures with this rubble stone mortar mix, just like you see in, Saskatchewan and other places around the world. All kinds of repairs, reuses. They show some ancient building. You can see it's clearly reused, giant blocks that have been reused, either on their sides. You can see where they connected with other things. This reuse thing is going on a lot. So, anyway, guys, Cahokia, whatever story, cockamamie story they give you about Cahokia is all wrong. The people who they attribute to it had no idea how to repair it or what the process was to building a mound or anything like that. Okay, some other people built it from a far more ancient past, and they just don't concern themselves with that time period for some reason. All the archaeology in America is under researched, as C.W. Saran suggested in his book, The First American, and also suggested that much of it was being suppressed. Okay, and he would know. He worked for the Ministry of Propaganda for the Nazis. Didn't like the Nazis, but what was he going to do? You know? So, in any case, after the war, he, wrote all his books on archaeology, and he's the first guy to write any book on archaeology was C.W. Saran. So anyway, he came to America because he wanted to know about American archaeology. He was interested in it, and what he found out that much of it was being suppressed. So, in any case, that's C.W. Saran. So, you can pretty much chalk it up to more, misinformation based on certain presumptions by the archaeological academic community. And it seems highly unlikely that a people capable of engineering and building mounds, that many of them, I don't know, they say many of mounds slumped. Which ones? I've never seen another one that's slumped or anything. All of them are completely intact, except this Cahokia one. So, I love the way they make this blanket statement with, no examples to reference to, even one. So that's nonsense. So they don't understand it. So they're gonna try to do everything in their power to blow it off. Because, like C.W. Saran, it's being suppressed. Alright, guys, anyway, not a long video here. I hope you enjoyed that, but don't think for a moment that Cahokia was built by the Mississippian people. It was stumbled upon about them, and their repairs didn't work because they thought the thing was just made of dirt, and they were wrong because they didn't know. They came far after these natural disasters occurred there and destroyed the civilization, and stumbled upon it and attempted to do something with it, but it didn't work out. Alright, anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Please like and please subscribe if you're a new viewer. And Bloodcat 7 signing out. Peace.